Happy Sunday night. MLB draft. MLB All-Star break. Little over midway point of the season. Let's see how the season's going. About some of these draft picks, prospects, trades coming up. The guy I'd always do that with is Robert Marcello. Robert, how you doing tonight?
Good, buddy. How are you?
Good. Do I sound all right? You made a weird face. Okay.
No. Good.
No, my dog decided to start doing zoomies around the house right now. So that was a great moment, Stark.
Yeah.
So the MLB draft will be starting. The Orioles will be on the clock first, but we'll talk a little bit about the first half of the season, or get into that and kind of get ourselves set up for the trade deadline.
Of course.
We might as well start, obviously, in the AL East. What have you thought of the Yankees season so far? And going back to the night before the season when we had the preview, the difference of what you thought then to what you think now.
I thought the Yankees were in a bit of trouble to start the year. Their rotation was a little bit suspect. Their starting pitching has been outstanding, top to bottom. I think it is the best pitching in all of baseball. Since all these injuries have started, they're starting to lose a couple of games they probably shouldn't have. A month ago, if you asked me if the Cincinnati Reds were coming in, the Yankees would have killed them in all of their games. But the Reds somehow were able to take 2 out of 3 and give them a lot of credit. The Red Sox on Friday night, they were somehow able to win that game. And, of course, the last 2 nights have both been blowouts. So the Yankees, by far, I think out of all the teams in the league, have shocked me the most because the way they've been able to put it together.
We see the Yankees, huge lead, division. What are we thinking of Houston? Does Houston have any chance of catching the Yankees? Maybe are they the only hope, or they pretty much sailing into the 1 seed and kind of setting themselves up, resting guys up, and being ready for the postseason?
If I'm the Yankees, I'm very careful with the way I'm handling Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton. A lot of their problems the past 2 or 3 years or so have been because those guys haven't consistently been in the lineup. I feel like if they can get those guys 100% going into October, they're going to be a tough team to beat.
Now, Carlos Correa goes, they don't miss a beat. They're just...
Yeah, the Astros, I think the Astros, out of everybody in the American League, probably have the best shot to beat the Yankees. We've already seen with the Red Sox this year. I think they're 4-5 against them this year, which is pretty impressive based on, everybody else in the league, having a terrible record against them. So I'd say the Astros out of everybody. I think the White Sox, if they can build something maybe in the second half of the year, maybe they have a chance. As a Red Sox fan, I just have a hard time believing we can compete with them in a series in the playoffs.
All right. Listen, the E2G Sports Network. We'll just call this Midseason Baseball 2022 with the draft thrown in. Mm-hmm. Moving down to the Central, Minnesota closing out the 2-game lead over the Guardians. And I got something interesting about the Guardians, I noticed. Yeah. And the White Sox, 3 games out at 46-46. Appears to be a 3-team race. And that division and those teams are kind of hanging around in the wild card, we'll call it, despite all the success that's going on in the AL East. Are you staying with what you thought with this division, or have you seen something different?
So I think at the beginning of the year, I picked the White Sox. And then I think the White Sox have just completely fallen apart this year. They've been able to build it back up, though. I thought at one point in the month of May, there's no team these teams can even contend for the division. They were able to somehow piece it together these past couple of weeks. But managing is a huge concern with them. Tony La Russa, he's an older guy. He's been out of the game for a while. They've made the playoffs, and they've had early exits. So this year, if they're able to kind of turn things around in the second half, I think they very much can win their division. It's still within sight. I thought Minnesota was going to run away with the division. I've been really surprised about the Guardians. I felt like that it was going to take a couple of years for them to rebuild. The way they've been able to get contributions from the guys they got back from that Lindor trade have been fantastic. Edmed Rosario has been a godsend for the Guardians.
So those guys have come through a lot sooner.
Yes, a lot sooner than expected. Absolutely.
All right. Any comments, questions, any suggestions? Go to the comment page here. Take you right through. They're just about to start with the draft as we move to the West. And 9-game lead. Seattle, who has won 14 straight games. Again, 14 straight games. Almost pretty much since that fight. My favorite part, the interpreter getting suspended for 2 games.
Yeah, that was great. I think Seattle is a contender. Just like last year, they got off to that slow start, and then they're able to pick things up. And to be honest with you, I don't think there's an American League team that would have want to play them in the postseason. The Red Sox wouldn't have. We would have lost. They're that good. They're really good. And Jesse Winker, who they got in, as well as Suarez from the Reds in the offseason, they started off really slow too. They're both getting hot. So the Mariners, they're going to be a tough team to beat.
The All-Star break just comes at a terrible time for them.
Yes, I think the flip. So we look at the Red Sox, right? What a great time for them to have the All-Star break. They have had a terrible July. Maybe they're able to reset, finish the month off strong starting on Friday back home at Fenway when they host the Blue Jays, who are a team that are also contending for a wild card spot. Then you look at Seattle, who have just won 14 in a row. Now they're going to stop 4 or 5 days. What happens when they come back next week? Are they going to be able to have that same focus, or are things going to fall apart?
Yeah, momentum is just a strange thing, and they usually say momentum is your next day's starting pitcher, but not in this case.
They got some time off.
Rolling out there and rolling along no matter who it is.
Yeah.
Going over to the NL, and this was my World Series pick. They got a 2.5-game lead. The Mets, 2.5-game lead over Atlanta, and Philadelphia is 8.5 out at this point in time. Looks like a 2-team race for that division.
Mm-hmm.
What are you seeing with this Mets pitching, and can this hitting, I don't know, funded enough to get them through to where they need to be?
The Mets injuries, specifically with DeGrom and Scherzer about in May, is the reason why the Braves are able to get back in it. If all those guys are able to be healthy, the Braves might be 7 or 8 games out, and the Mets are looking pretty good come September 1st. That being said, I don't think the Mets are going to win this division. I think the Braves are going to be able to find a way. They have a lot of guys that have been there for a long time and know how to win, of course, winning the World Series last year. If the Mets are able to get into the postseason, all the Mets have to do is just get into the playoffs and have DeGrom and Scherzer ready to go, and they can win a championship with those 2 guys. Championships are won out on that mound. Runs are great and everything, but if you can keep a team to less than 2 or 3 runs every single game, you got a chance.
Yeah, so moving down, Milwaukee, St. Louis, pretty much a 2-team race. In the Central, Milwaukee with a 0.5-game lead over St. Louis. Did you see Hader last night?
Yeah, Hader, in my opinion, is the best closer in baseball, but similar to when Aroldis Chapman was the guy, if you can get him rattled, you got him. He's easily rattled. So that'd be a concern for me for them coming into the playoffs. Both of those teams, I believe, are a lock into the playoffs. I don't see either of them completely falling off to where they're out of that spot. That extra wild card spot is going to be big for a lot of teams this year.
And the interesting thing about the wild card is it'll be 3-6-4-5. But if you're the top wild card team, you play the second wild card team, and it's actually a 3-game series in your venue.
Yes, yeah, that the home field advantage in those wild card games are going to be immense. It's going to be similar to what like the COVID year was in 2020, where they played the best of 3. They played them all at the same ballpark. That's amazing, and it's going to be huge. Of course, in 2020, they didn't have any fans at that point in the postseason, but it's going to be hugely important, especially with some of the crowds that they have in the National League. It's going to be tough to play.
And we're looking at the Dodgers in first place, 9.5-game lead over San Diego. San Francisco's at 48 and 43. I think they're the only game still going on right now, but they're 12.5 games out. Last year it was San Francisco at the top of the heap, and they ended up losing to the Dodgers in 5 at home in a pretty classic series. What can we say about the team in the middle, San Diego, that wasn't there last year? What do you think the big difference is between last year's Padres and this year's Padres?
So the Padres last year, the injuries riddled them and just inconsistent pitching, right? The Padres have had a little bit of that this year, but I think the difference is Fernando Tatis Jr. isn't there. And when he was there, he was, hanging out at short, then he was playing at center. And they're going to have to get him back at some point. I don't know if he's going to be able to play at all this year. I know that a couple of weeks ago he was out during batting practice fielding at short. I don't know the status on him when he's able to return. But what I do know is once he returns and if he's able to contribute, and also having Manny Machado over at third base and the guys they have in that lineup, maybe they do have a chance. But top to bottom, the Giants and the Dodgers are just so much better than them.
Yeah. I'm just looking up just to see because they're about to make the first pick in the draft. And a phone call is being taken by one of the prospects. Giving it away, man. What are they doing? Going to the green room?
Yeah, they the draft coverage in general, I think for all sports has been much better like the past 5 years. Just the way they're able to cover the players. A lot of the guys are at home, right? So, they'll just, send them a camera or something, say, hey, set it up here. We'll test it 20 minutes before, and you're good. I think that's really cool, and that's something that's unique about baseball.
All right, so Manfred's up. He's actually not getting booed. This is rare for a draft. Jackson Holiday, shortstop, Oklahoma High School. Just on the way the Orioles have played this year, they have just already overachieved. What do we see in their system? And now putting a, first pick overall shortstop in the system. What does this look for the future for the Orioles?
After Buck Showalter left, they kind of went to a rebuilding phase, and they drafted a lot of young players. And similar to like what the Kansas City Royals are doing right now is where they have all these players coming up, and they're all contributing. Everything that Brandon Hyde is doing right now is what he promised to do when he first got the job 4 years ago. And now it's coming to fruition. I'm really happy for Brandon Hyde and the Baltimore Orioles. Even though they're in the division the same as the Red Sox, the way they've been able to turn that organization around, it's been fantastic. If you're an Orioles fan, expect to contend for a long time in the next 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, so Aiden Hutchinson behind the plate. I always say that jokingly, the Michigan defensive man. Just who do you think the top few guys are who are going to carry this, not including Jackson Holiday, who was just drafted?
In Baltimore, you're referencing?
Yeah.
Well, Adley Rutschman, of course, at the beginning of the start. Cedric Mullins is there. Trey Mancini, even though he's an older guy, the presence in the locker room, I think really helps. The thing for Baltimore, it's going to be interesting, especially in the AL East, is you're going to really need really good starters. I'm going to be curious to see maybe this offseason or next, because they're going to have a lot of money freed up. I mean, I don't think they have a lot of guys on their payroll that are making more than $10 million. They're going to be able to go get some guys and maybe make things interesting.
Let me just throw this one at you. How about they sweep it and grab Devers if the Red Sox don't grab him? What would he do in that ballpark? Have you thought of that before this?
So the reason why I'm cautious on it is that left field out in Baltimore is really far away.
Mm-hmm. But the way they expanded it.
Devers loves to go the other way and hit the ball off the monster. But he can hit it right down that right field line over at Fenway, and he can sneak it in. The Red Sox have to sign Devers. I don't see there's any reason why they should let him walk. He's a great guy. He says all the right things. He has been probably the most crucial part of the team for the past 2 or 3 years. Xander Bogaerts, great player. I wish he was a Red Sox for life. But Red Sox fans, unfortunately, are going to have to get used to the fact that he's probably going to leave. And the reason why that is because the Red Sox signed Trevor Story last offseason. And I don't know if Trevor Story is going to want to play that whole contract over at second base.
So if I look, how far away are guys like Blaze Jordan, Nick York, Tristan Cash is now coming off the DL for the Red Sox? Is that what we're looking forward to for the future infield of the Boston Red Sox?
That's what Hein Bloom believes it's going to be. We unfortunately thought the same thing about Bobby Dahlbeck, who had a pretty good year last year, right? He had a really good start to the year and then kind of fell off in the middle and then got a little bit hot. And then this year, he just hasn't been able to get it going at the plate. That's really concerning for the Red Sox. If after the All-Star break he hasn't gotten going, they should possibly think about sending him down and bringing Cash up. They really should.
Are they just waiting for kind of what you'd call a rehab stint for Cassius?
Yes.
Get him healthy?
I truly do believe that the Red Sox are going to make that move and send. I think Dahlbeck just needs 2 or 3 weeks down in Worcester just to get. He needs some confidence. That's all he needs. It's not permanent that he's going to be down there. I just think he needs to get a couple of homers and get a couple of doubles in the left center field gap and just be able to come back up and be able to contribute. Problem is, if you bring Cassis up, you can't just send him right back down. That wouldn't be fair to him. So, we just saw the other day with the top Red Sox prospect, 2 starts, he couldn't command the strike zone. That's really concerning based on what, Boston media and what the Red Sox organization was saying, and the fact that, this guy's supposed to be our best pitching prospect, but he can't find the strike zone. And that's really
I went to the game at Fenway. I sat out in center field, and I was underwhelmed from everything I expected to hear.
Yeah, I thought
the ball hitting the glove, especially.
I thought maybe pitch five innings, let up 3 runs. That's fine. That is a first start in the major leaguer. That's fine. But he couldn't command the strike zone, and with those guys in Tampa, the Red Sox are trying to develop that same strategy to where sit on your pitch and don't deviate from what we've taught you in the minor leagues. And Tampa is just speaking on Tampa when we go back to the AL East. The way they've been able to consistently contend in that long of time with the roster that they have and the payroll they have, it's amazing. And I know they're trying to adopt that here in Boston. But to this point, this team right now is underachieving.
What do you know about Jay Groom? Has he grown up?
So Groom had some arm issues. I know that. I know that, right? I believe he's in AA or AAA. He has a below 3.5 ERA, which is good news. So, but no, I think there's a chance maybe next year we could see him. I don't think we're going to see him at any point this year, regardless of how he pitches. I also don't think that we're going to see the Red Sox top prospect pitch as well. I think that that experience, unfortunately, did not work out. I think it reminded me very similar of how Jarren Duran started his Red Sox career, where it kind of took him a long time to get going at the plate. Now, of course, he's back, and I think he's done pretty well. I think he's had some moments. I mean, he had that leadoff homer to start the game in Chicago a couple weeks ago. He's done overall okay defensively. I think he's more of a center fielder. The Red Sox have tried to play him in right field, and that's really tough in some of the ballparks he's played at. So I think that the Red Sox farm system right now is pretty solid, but there's just a lot of guys that you think are ready and they're going to come up and they're not.
Brian Mott is a guy who's in AA right now, putting up some really good numbers. I almost felt like he was the Bello last year, like what they were talking about with him.
Yeah.
And then Bello really emerged this season. Is he a guy who could help this year out of the bullpen?
I think the Red Sox need to address a lot of the bullpen needs. I think at this point in the season, after July 4th, the bullpen is not solidified. People don't have roles. And the problem with that is, you're trying somebody new every day. And that's just not going to work for you. And I don't think that's just an Alex Cora problem. I think that's an organization problem. And that honestly starts with Hein Bloom. I've been very critical since the start of his tenure with the Red Sox. Trading away Andrew Benintendi. Some of those guys that we've gotten back have somewhat contributed, but not to the point of where Benintendi was, where he was a mainstay with the team and had a pretty good career. Small, obviously, a couple year sample size with the Red Sox, but he was great defensively. He was a good contact guy. He didn't strike out all the time. And he was a good guy overall. I think that the Red Sox, organizationally, right now, their current philosophy is fine and well. But when you get to the American League Championship Series last year, honestly, probably should have won it based on how the Astros, where you somewhat had them down and out, you kind of let them off the hook, and then they go on and win the rest of that series. So, and then you look at this year, you got off to that really slow start, mainly because of that bullpen and your starting pitching, and then just the offense not being able to get going. It's really hard. And Jackie Bradley Jr. is a great player, but he can't hit. The guy we had last year, Renfro, he can hit. So the Red Sox are in a tough position right now to where at the deadline, should they go all for it, or should they sit back and just hope they're able to get into the playoffs? Because I believe if the Red Sox can just get into the playoffs, they have a chance. And I do believe that. They have a chance if their pitching can get solidified.
All right, Drew Jones just won second overall. I think we've heard of his dad.
Drew Jones,
he was a backup outfielder somewhere, right?
Andrew Jones, was it? Andrew
Yeah, that guy.
So Drew Jones was supposed to go first overall. So I was a little bit surprised that Holiday went first. Holiday, his uncle is not Holiday, and then I think his dad Oklahoma State is a school that I think he was going to go to, where I think he's currently at. I don't know what the situation is going to be. Is he going to go to college? Is he going to go right to pro? I mean, when you get drafted number 1 overall, I feel like you got to go pro.
Yeah, the team picking him almost has to know.
Yeah,
that he's going to be. You cannot do that. You
no.
Go out and have that situation where you're drafting a guy like that.
There has been an instance. Oh, there's the dog.
There's Starkey. Stark says hi.
There was something, I think, like 3 or 4 years ago. The guy was drafted in the top 15 picks and decided not to go.
Kumar Rocker this year, right?
Yeah, Kumar Rocker. So Kumar Rocker last year had some health issues. And then he didn't agree with the Mets on the price of his contract, so then he went back. But he didn't go back to Vanderbilt. I think he played some indie ball.
Yes. They were talking about his numbers earlier, 30 innings pitched.
And I know there's a possibility he might fall when the Red Sox are pitching tonight. And I feel like if you can get a guy like that and, somehow he's able to contribute maybe in 2 or 3 years, he's in the pros.
So that's the second overall pick. We'll move on to pick 3. They're kind of going through Drew Jones, 6'4", 180. So he's going to bulk up. Yeah. His dad was just a natural out there at center field.
Yeah, he was a great player. He had a lot of success when he played for the Braves, and that was really cool.
So, just a few more prospects I want to talk about. We've been talking about with the Red Sox. Matt Lugo, shortstop. I mean, is he a chip just because you have Marcelo Mayer as the number 1 prospect, and they're probably not going to both be here unless the other moves position.
So, buddy, I find it really, really interesting in the fact that the Red Sox, all their prospects are pitchers, third baseman, or shortstop, and they have a bunch of them. And what they've tried to do is they've tried to find them other positions so they can get up to the show faster. But now with them signing Trevor Story this offseason and maybe losing Bogarts, I think the Red Sox are going to end up signing both. But I think the Red Sox fans, there's definitely a possibility he might leave. And the Red Sox fans are likely going to have to get used to that. I personally want them to sign both. I think they both need to be Red Sox for life. And I think the Red Sox need to commit a lot of money to them. Bogarts, I don't think he's a $30 million player. I think he needs to realize that, and somewhere between 25 and 26, he should get paid. But I don't think he deserves $30 million just based on his defensive metrics, and then offensively, he's kind of a streaky player, like all great baseball players are. No one's ever perfect. Um, but getting just back to the prospects, just in general, a lot of the shortstops that they have are just going to be, pieces for them to move to be able to hopefully get somebody at the deadline or somebody in an off-season trade.
I'm just getting the third pick, Texas Rangers. Kumar Rocker went third overall.
Wow, that's surprising. I thought there was a chance that the Red Sox were going to be able to snag him. I think they're picking at 20. They were picking at 24, right? The Red Sox.
Yeah, I seriously, I thought that was where our discussion was going to be going most of the night. I'm absolutely stunned by this.
That's surprising that he's gone this early. The reason why I think he's gone this early is because the way he's been able to play at the level that he's playing at. The thing with Rocker is if he's able to command his stuff, he's a tough guy to hit off of. So he's going to be a good pitcher for a long time. I think he's similar to Jack Leiter in a lot of ways, who was his college teammate. Really good command, but I think Leiter's going to get to the show faster.
So, yeah, let's just say the state, everybody up there is shocked. They're showing him, Justin Fosk, Josh Jung, and Cole Winn.
And Leiter is in the Texas Rangers organization too. So those guys are going to hopefully be able to rekindle one day playing for the Rangers.
So the Vandy crew reunited.
Reunited, yeah.
So as we move on, that was the surprise of the night. Nice to start early.
Yeah, that was a surprise. That was
kind of like the NBA draft this year. First pick, really? This is what's going to happen tonight, huh?
Guess so.
Let's just see. We got a Facebook user. If you can just put your name, just to let us know who it is. I just hope the Tigers can find a future star. Miggy is getting old, and Riley Green is looking like he can be special. Torkelson is now in the minors. We need someone.
So Torkelson is really interesting because they drafted him a couple of years ago and somewhat rushed him up because they just really need someone to get a spark, right? And he played really well to begin his career with the Tigers. But this year he's really struggled. And I think the Tigers are sending him down similar to the way I think the Red Sox are going to send down Bobby Dahlbeck, just for a bit of confidence. And then when Torkelson comes back up, he's going to be the same guy that I saw in the Cape League in 2018, just hitting bombs up to left center field.
Yeah, I think he's one of those. He's a given. Maybe, a little bit more seasoning, like you said. Hey, do you remember Roy Halladay was up in the majors and they sent him all the way down and right back through the system with Toronto, and look what he went on to do. So, Tigers fan, don't feel bad. These guys, they grow at different levels, and they find their moment. Mm-hmm. They definitely do.
Absolutely.
Do you think this is pump and dump with Jeter Downs right now, with all the time he's getting, maybe for a deal for some relievers?
So I think, and I completely agree with you, I think one of the reasons why he's up right now is so other teams can see what he's like. I think it's really hard for a lot of teams that want to trade prospects because a lot of the prospects they have not seen. It's really easy to send a scout to a major league ballpark than it is a minor league ballpark.
Mm-hmm.
I think Jeter Downs potentially could be on the move come the deadline. I think there's a couple of guys in the team that you could see. No one from the bullpen, though.
There's no value there.
There's a couple of guys down there that have a lot of heart and have a lot of pride and love what they do and they try. But the Red Sox could easily have 10 more wins this year. And in those 10 wins potentially could be the reason between them making the playoffs and them sitting at home.
So the continuous top 5 pick team, the Pirates, are on the clock next. What would have been some of their moves the last couple of years, just some of the young players they have coming on board?
So they obviously have that big guy at short in Ortiz, who is probably the biggest shortstop I've ever seen. Don't ask me how he found the position of shortstop or how anybody allowed a guy that size to play shortstop. I think the Pirates have some guys in their system that you don't necessarily really hear about, but maybe in 2 or 3 years they could come up. But to sit and talk about every one, it's really difficult because they claim to have a lot of guys, but then when they all come up, they're not very good. And I think the Pirates, as a team, and me and Adam, who I used to host the Double Steel Baseball show with, have had this conversation many times. The salary cap issue in baseball is an issue that the Pirates are continuing to ignore. And the fact that they just don't want to spend money on their team because fans are still coming to the ballpark. And when fans still come to the ballpark, the organization doesn't much pressure baseball operations to be able to make these big moves.
So is this a team in the next 10 years we're going to see anything out of? Or
No.
are we going back to Pirates 1992 till they had that little run early?
They're maybe 6 or 7 years away from really competing.
As Ryan Beatty once said on here, they're 6 or 7 years away from being 6 or 7 years away. So.
It would take. They remind me a lot of when the Astros were first going through their rebuild. They're going to be a 100-loss team for a couple of years. Do I potentially? So the reason why I say that is because they don't spend money on big free agents. So how are you going to get any better? You can't just depend on your minor league system every single year. It's just not the way it works. You have to go out and get some guys. I'm not asking you to get the top echelon, but you got to get some guys that are serviceable, and they just haven't done that.
They need to do what the NHL does, which is have a floor. You have to spend to this much, a.k.a. the Arizona Coyotes got to go take on $25 million in junk of fourth liners who are overpaid because they got to make the floor. The fourth pick, Tamar Johnson, who I thought they had listed as the top player. So could we seriously have 2 years in a row the fourth player be the top player and the shortstop, just like with Mayer last year?
Yeah, I'd say the draft, the Major League Baseball draft, you see a lot of guys that you hear are going to be a top 25 pick get picked early. You don't see too many guys slip like you see in other sports. I think baseball evaluation out of all the professional sports, for the most part, get it right. If you pick a guy in the first round, he's more likely to be successful in Major League Baseball than the guy that you pick in the first round in the NBA that has a terrible career.
Yeah.
And I think there's more chances, obviously 162 games. 140 games in the minors. I'd hope there's more opportunity for them to be able to prove themselves.
And so Jamar Johnson thrown on his Pirates gear, and he's a shortstop, so they can hide him behind Ortiz. It'd be like running a blitz with how big he is compared to how little this guy is. So next on the clock is Washington. What's going on with Juan Soto?
So I'm glad that you've asked. This is just my opinion. I know the viewers are going to probably jump on me for it, but I'll try to be as respectful as possible to Nationals fans. Juan Soto doesn't want to be there anymore. Why would you turn down a 15-year deal for $400 and something million if you didn't want to be, if you wanted to be there? He doesn't want to be there anymore. That's what that tells me. And I think that's a slap in the face to the organization. For them to go out of their way to offer that contract and for him to say no, that just tells me he doesn't want to be there. And the Nationals should try to move him quickly because that could become a potential distraction.
All right, so went up on E2G today, E2G.com, E2GSports.com. Glenn Kaplan wrote an article, Potential Trades for Juan Soto. I want to hear what you think of these potential deals. All right, New York Mets. The Mets All right, his explanation. New York Mets can use another outfield bat. He would be another great fit on the baseball team, and you can have Juan Soto, Pete Alonso, and Francisco Lindor in that order. Owner Stephen Cohen loves to spend money, and general manager Billy Epler isn't scared of making big moves for a bat. The Mets are in contention for a World Series title this year. Projected deal. Mets acquire Juan Soto. Washington acquires outfielder third baseman Brett Beatty, who is the number 2 prospect in the Mets system. Shortstop Ronnie Mauricio, who is the third best prospect in the system. Alex Ramirez, 4th best prospect in the system. He's an outfielder. Throw in some pitching. Matt Allen, their 6th best prospect. And outfielder first baseman Dominic Smith. And figure it out maybe with one more player there. Do you think that even intrigues Washington at all?
Trading within the division, I think, for the Nationals would not be a smart idea. Because if you trade him away, Juan Soto is going to make you pay 18, 19 times a year for tanking after you win a World Series. If the Mets are serious about contending for a championship, they might call the Nationals. But I think that trade's unlikely.
All right.
I like the thought, though. It's a nice thought.
The other team in that city, the New York Yankees, we saw them do this with Giancarlo Stanton a few years ago. The New York Yankees are currently the best team in all of baseball. Aaron Judge and Anthony Rizzo are the best hitters on the roster. Imagine a lineup with those two along with Juan Soto. They would be the favorites to win it all, and they already are to begin with. General manager Brian Cashman needs to make a big splash to actually secure a title. The Yankees acquire Juan Soto in exchange for shortstop Anthony Volpe, number 1 prospect, outfield Jason Dominguez, their 3rd overall prospect, Austin Wells, catcher, 4th overall prospect in their system, relief pitcher Louis Gill, 9th best prospect, Joey Gallo, where they keep most of the salary, and another player.
I think the Mets are more likely to get Juan Soto than the Yankees are. If the Yankees get Juan Soto, Aaron Judge is gone.
Yeah.
I think that's a foregone conclusion. They both play the same position.
That would be
and Aaron Hicks Aaron Hicks is really good defensively out in center field, and Aaron Judge I don't think is going to want to play center field his whole career with the Yankees. I think health-wise he wouldn't be able to hold up for 162. I think the Yankees, similar to the Mets, if they want to go all in and win a World Series this year, they'd make that trade. I think the Nationals would pick up the phone more to listen to that than the Mets, but that's just another trade that I could see going haywire for the Nationals. And just one thing I want to mention specifically with all of these trades, and it's going to take more than prospects to be able to get this deal done. You're going to need real major league players, and Luis Gill is a real major league pitcher. Joey Gallo is a major league player. So that trade for the Yankees is a little bit more reasonable, but the fan base is going to go nuts when they don't have Aaron Judge the rest of his career.
We'll come back to the other 2 teams that are listed here. We'll let people stew on what these other 2 teams could be, and what the pieces going back with. Does Washington make a pick here that is kind of like a Soto replacement because they know this is happening? And I'm not saying you're replacing the guy, but similar set, somebody who's going to bring interest to the fan base, something along that line. Is this a very important pick in the process of Juan Soto?
Yes, absolutely. If the Nationals do end up trading away Juan Soto, which I believe they're going to, because I believe they feel the same way that I do in the fact that he turned down 15 years, $400-something million. That just tells me you don't want to be there anymore. I hope I'm wrong. Juan Soto's a great guy, and I hope he wouldn't do that to the organization. But if I'm the organization, I'm not particularly too happy with him at the moment. So I'm trying to get a guy that's going to hopefully sell, box office tickets, for 2 or 3 years from now.
And he's already got his ring, so he's just going for his money at this point in time. I mean, to get it that young and now build off of watching E2G Sports 2022 MLB draft show, talking MLB prospects, trade deadline, midway point, the future, a little bit of everything. If you got anything to say, chime in on the comments, and please put your name because all we get is Facebook user. So
I like this comment right here, buddy. With Rocker at number 3, the Tigers might get a top 10 talent. Now, Rocker last year was a top 10 talent. I don't believe he's a top 10 talent anymore. I think he went too early, but maybe it works out. Maybe he learned something from his failed attempt to sign with the Mets.
How long did that last? He was out pretty quickly on them, wasn't he?
Yeah, so he tried to negotiate with them, and there was some medical stuff that was going on, and then he just wasn't able to get to the exact number. So he ended up not doing anything and got a quick job, with baseball in another league, and it ended up working out for him.
And so ended up getting him number 3 overall. So he's getting that number 3 purse.
Yeah.
From the Texas Rangers. They definitely, you can always use pitching in Texas. Yeah. It's just one of those places. It always feels like they never have a good starter, like beyond like maybe number 1.
I remember Texas for a couple of years there. We're competing, and they had Cole Hamels and Ryan Dempster. Ryan Dempster pitched for them.
Yes, he did. Yes, I think before he came to Boston.
Yeah. They had Cliff Lee for a little bit too.
But these guys were always like at the end.
They were old. They don't. I mean, they hope that's what Jack Leiter is going to be, and obviously Kumar Rocker.
Yeah, I mean the Celtics had Artis Gilmore and Shaquille O'Neal, but they were pretty much on life support at that point in time. So it's nice to say they did play there, but to get guys in their prime and get quality use out of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So big. So we're waiting. They're in commercial now for 5th pick. Do you think Zimmerman being gone has anything to do with this? Like he just thought Zimmerman was able to keep him in line and keep him focused and knew how to deal with him, and now he's gone, so Soto's really lost interest.
I'm a bit surprised the Nationals went this way to where they won the championship and things have just completely fallen apart. It's a little similar to what the Red Sox kind of went through the 2 years after they won the championship. They had to tear everything down and build it back up again. I think Juan Soto, if he really wanted to, could stay through this rebuild. But he's a top 5 player in baseball. I just don't think it's fair to him. I think for both sides, I think it might be better to move on. The problem is the Nationals are never, ever going to get the return that they deserve for Juan Soto because teams just aren't going to do it. And there's no guarantee that your top prospect is going to be able to be a great Major League Baseball player. So, but they're not going to trade you guys that are in their prime because that doesn't make any sense for them. So it's kind of difficult. I think for the Nationals, if they just want to tear this thing down and start up all over again, they might want to separate ways and just take a bunch of guys. But then, for the next 10 years, Juan Soto is going to make you pay every single time it comes to your ballpark.
All right. They did select an outfielder. Elijah Green from IMG Academy in Florida. Yeah, they went for the big outfielder again.
Yeah, it seems like Washington's always into the outfielders. They had a good outfield there when they won the championship in the past couple of years too. So good for them.
So they're starting to go through highlights of him now. All right, I remember him. To talk about geeking out. Okay, I watched the baseball combine for a little while. I remember him in it.
In San Diego, yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing him in it. Do you think the day is coming we're actually going to be able to see players for draft picks on draft night, like to just increase this even more? This would have been the perfect year with Soto.
You're talking like at like a site, and they come up and like the NFL does it.
No, I'm saying like right now, Juan Soto got traded for the 6th pick. This team also has a 36th pick and a bunch of players.
Oh,
Like during the draft.
they're talking about possibly being able to do that, being able to move up. The problem is there's so many rounds in the draft, so it'd kind of be tricky to be able to, flip around picks.
Oh, you know who his dad is? Eric Green,
Eric Green. Okay.
the tight end.
Yep.
Oh, wow. That was a pretty big guy.
Mhm.
There's definitely some genetic. There are a lot of genetics in this. I know.
There's a lot of guys in this draft that their dads play professional sports.
Crawford, still one of those guys who's listed kind of high. The Marlins are on the clock now. Somebody to go play in front of dozens and dozens of people. Is there anything of interest with the Marlins right now? On the field, coming up.
So the Marlins had that interesting COVID year, right? Were they able to get into the playoffs, beat the Cubs at Wrigley Field, and then, of course, everything fell apart in Houston when they played against the Braves. And then I thought coming back the next year they're going to be a solid team, and they just completely fell apart. I don't know if it was just they were able to get their crap together on like everybody else in 2020 in baseball, and just had a magical year. It was maybe just a one-hit wonder thing. Don Mattingly is a really, really good manager for them. He played Major League Baseball. He's been around the game for a long time, and he's kind of stuck out with them. The Marlins could have, after 2 or 3 years, with them, losing 90-plus games, could have just fired him. But they're not going to do that because he's great with the players. And I think Don Mattingly is the perfect manager for an organization like that. Do I foresee them being contender in the next 2 or 3 years? No. Maybe in the next 5 years? Yes. And I think they really need to build around Jazz Chisholm. If they can do that, they have a chance, and they have some really good pitching. That hopefully can sustain them for a couple years.
All right, you're watching the Ear to the Ground Sports Network, E2G Sports, at E2G Sports on Twitter, E2G Sports LLC on Facebook group. A little bit of everywhere. We're going to be joined by a guest in a few minutes.
Okay.
To talk about something that E2G is going to be doing. So if anybody out there can share that, we're going to have a pretty special guest on in a few minutes and something coming up for us. So I wanted to give him his due and see what he had to do. He was at a big baseball game today. So we'll see. Just some announcements along the way. The pick is in, number 6 overall for the Marlins. And after that, the Cubs. The Twins picking this high with how well they're playing this year. Pretty good thing. And Kansas City, number 9. Patrick Mahomes will be making the pick at number 9. Jacob Berry, third baseman from LSU, so a college player. Switch hitter, 6 foot 212. LSU. It's the Marlins. We'll move. Team of interest, the Cubs. Where do you think they are right now? 7th pick overall right now coming up. What are their pieces? What do they have to sell and to improve upon this rebuild and make it quicker?
So the Cubs are a lot similar to a lot of the teams in the National League. They're at the bottom where they're just 4 or 5 guys away from really being a contender, and they're going to have money. The Cubs' financial situation was not handled the best, and that was by one of the greatest GMs of all time, Theo Epstein. They had to get rid of Bryant, Rizzo, and Baez all in 1 year. And that frees up a lot of money. The Cubs have somewhat of a core of young guys right now. Unfortunately, those core guys right now are getting it done, but not to the point to where they can compete with the Cardinals and the Brewers. Those two teams are tough, and those two teams are going to be pretty good for the next 4 or 5 years. They're going to have a hard time competing in that division. That being said, I think the Cubs are 3 or 4 really good players away from really being a World Series contender again, because they still have Kyle Hendricks once he gets healthy, and they're able to kind of fill in the pieces from there.
How many years away do you think they are? And with Milwaukee and St. Louis being the teams ahead of them,
3 or 4 years, I'd say. I think the Cardinals right now are pretty good setup in the future. Life after Yadier Molina is going to be very interesting to kind of see. Adam Wainwright, life without him as well. Albert Pujols is kind of coming back for a short stint, kind of his last final run. It would be really cool, of course, to do the show with Parker. It'd be really cool to, see them, win it all for Waino and, Molina and Pujols, who, were teammates for a really long time ago. It could be kind of cool to see them rekindle and win it all. Hopefully it's not against the Red Sox. Obviously, I'd hope for the Red Sox to win, but I wouldn't mind losing to them.
just sending some messages out.
Sure.
So why isn't Theo in the Hall of Fame already? You win a championship with the Red Sox and Cubs, they should put you in the next day.
I think there's a chance, buddy, in the next 5 or 6 years that you could see baseball run Rob Manfred out and put Theo in as the commissioner. Theo has changed the game of baseball, similar to what a lot of other GMs have done in the past, similar to what Billy Beane has done. I feel like those guys, when they're able to make an impact like that, it's important.
All right. Well, we got a special guest tonight. Ready to meet someone special tonight, Robert Marcello?
Sure.
All right.
What's up, gentlemen?
How we doing?
I'm doing good. How you guys doing?
Doing pretty good. Why don't you fill us in about yourself? And first of all, tell us about your baseball game today, your son's baseball game, because Robert calls everything from T-ball to pro ball. So.
Oh, man, I got to tell you. So my kids, we were in a weekend tournament. I'm a coach. I've been coaching these kids since 7U, and it's just been fantastic. I mean, to have a group, and now they're 15, 16. So to have the same group of kids, mostly the same group of kids together for that long is very rare, because kids go their different ways. They go to private baseball. We're a town team. And we had a tournament this weekend, 6 or 7 teams, something like that. Anyway, we played Saturday. We did horrible. We lost both of our games, which meant that we had to run the table today on Sunday in order to win everything. So, but I had a conflict. I went to a cornhole tournament down in Philly, which is about an hour away. So I already signed up for this thing like two months ago. And my kid is pitching in the first game on Sunday today, and it's killing me. I'm missing it. I'm like, how many more times am I going to see my kid pitch? And so I get down there, and my wife's giving me the play-by-play on the phone, and he pitches a gem. We win our first game. Then we win the second game, and it was going back and forth. I'm like, if they win the second game, we go to the championship. I'm leaving. I'm driving back home, and I'm going to this game. And sure enough, that's what I did. They won. I packed everything up. I'm like, screw it. I said, there's only so many things in this world that are worth seeing, and this was one of them. When you're seeing your kid playing and competing, I mean, yes, it's Little League baseball. It's not the World Series, but when you're supporting your kid and you see, big smile on his face when he sees me get there, it was awesome, and it was fantastic. We wound up winning the game 4-3. And these kids have a ton of heart. We have never won 3 games in one day. When you think about it, you only have so many kids. You only have so much pitching. And every kid stepped up to the plate and produced something to make us win. It was just absolutely awesome. I was proud as a dad. I was proud as a coach. It was fantastic. Thanks for asking.
Awesome. Get that out there. So, Michael, why
Absolutely.
don't you tell us a little bit yourself and your product, and
Sure. My
then
name
we'll
is
discuss everything going on.
yeah. My name is Michael Silva, and I'm the inventor of QB54. QB54 is the only football-based backyard tailgating game that's out there on the market. We started the business in 2016, and once you start playing this game, you will not stop. And everybody's like, "Oh, it's cornhole." No, it's not cornhole. Listen, cornhole's a great game. I was just at a cornhole tournament. It's fun. Anybody can play. It's been around forever. But people are hungry for something new, something different, something competitive, something addictive. And I think we have what they're looking for. And I believe you picked up a game. We're going to pick up a game, so you might know how the game is firsthand.
Yeah, be playing next Saturday.
Fantastic.
And a location to be determined. As we built a nice partnership here with Michael in QB54. Not only are we going to run a few tournaments, but we're looking to be the first QB54 league.
Absolutely. And I'm excited for you guys, and I'm excited to support you any way I can.
That's awesome. So E2G Sports wants to run the first QB54 league during the football season on Saturdays and Sundays, and just build the brand. And the road trips I go on, I'll make sure I'm going to Cleveland, I'm going to Phoenix, and I'm going to Las Vegas.
Awesome. So if you want, I could paint a picture for your audience about what this game is, how to play it, and everything. If you want me to.
Do it up.
All right. So every game, so it's an entire game of football that we built out of 2 folding chairs. This is your traditional chair that the soccer mom brings to every soccer game. They open it up for them and their kids and sit down. So every game comes with two chairs, 2 sets of goalposts, a football, carrying bag, ball pump, steel needle, everything you need to play this game. And what you do is this. You have a chair at one end and a chair at the other. And there's a hole in the seat. That's the goal. So you want to throw the ball into the hole to get the touchdown. Let me get into scoring. So you have a chair at one end, chair at the other. You can play 1-on-1 up to 4-on-4 if you wanted to. The object of the game, obviously, is to score. And this is how you score. On offense, you throw the ball. If you hit any part of the uprights or the chair, that's a completion for 3 points. If you throw it in the bucket, that's a touchdown for 6. And then, yes, you kick the extra point through the field goal post that are on top of the chair.
This is where the injuries happen, and the plates are getting knocked over, and the beers are spilt.
Everybody's like, "Oh my God, how do you play this at a tailgate? This is so." Listen, I've been doing this for 6 years, traveled all over the country, been to Buffalo, Cleveland, Penn State, West Virginia University, Notre Dame, down the SEC country, as far west as San Diego Chargers back in 2016 or 17, I think it was. Listen, people are having fun. The ball's made out of rubber. If it hits a car, it's not going to dent it. It's not going to scratch it. People are having catches anywhere. So we say, why not throw a football, but throw it with a purpose? So, and on defense, if you catch your opponent's rebound off the chair, it's an interception for the defending team. And that's the basic rules. There's some advanced rules that our customers have created themselves, where there's like returns on the interception. There's the Hail Mary. There's all these things where it can get really involved and really competitive, which is awesome. You can morph the rules into however you want to play the game.
That's awesome. Robert, had you heard about this prior to today?
I haven't. It sounds really cool. I feel like I'm gonna have to pick up one of these games.
I tell you what, do me a
now
favor.
on YouTube. We'll
Do
wait
me a
for
favor. Go on Facebook or go on Instagram and search QB54. Do that once, and you will get inundated with ads left and right, because we're going to retarget you until you buy a game. But I guarantee you'll love it. Check out this awesome story. This happened last week. Do you know who Nick Carter is from the Backstreet Boys?
Yes.
This is the other part of the story we wanted to share.
His agent reaches out to me last week. I was on vacation with my family. We were down at the Jersey Shore, and his agent, Lori, awesome person, reached out and says, "Hey, I saw your ad on Facebook. Nick is a big football fan, and he just bought a metaverse team called the Tampa Bay Bull Sharks. So this is, a futuristic type of thing where I guess, it's in the metaverse somewhere. But anyway, he's a huge Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan, and she said, I saw your game. I'm going to bring this in front of Nick, and see what he thinks. And he says, oh, by the way, I see that you work with the veterans, help support them. And we do. We work with an organization called playforyourfreedom.org. And this is a vet organization that helps our vets that are in VA hospitals come out, play football, team camaraderie, and get them out interacting, with their friends and families and the public and whatnot through sport, through football, through exercise. And Dave Lionheart, the founder of that organization, saw my game, and he saw that there was an underserved portion of that population that could not play in the two-hand touch game. Now, there's also ex-NFL players that are affiliated with this organization, like Odessa Turner from the New York Giants, Gary Brown, Super Bowl champ from the Packers. These guys are supporting this organization, and they're going out and they're getting just as much out of this as the vets are. And Dave sees my game and says, you know what? The guys that are paralyzed from the waist down or that are amputees that can't play in the two-hand touch game, they can play QB 54. And that's how our relationship started. Fast forward till last week, Nick's agent says, I see that you work with the vets. I said, yep, play for your freedom. She said, how would you like to come to a show, Camden, New Jersey, and play with Nick and the boys from the band and have backstage passes and go to the show? I'm like, blown away. I'm like, this could be our first real celebrity endorsement for our game. So what do? Went to Camden, New Jersey, set everything up. Man of his word, Nick came out, also Howie from the band. They had a blast. And the vets were there playing, and Nick met all the veterans that were there, thanked them for their service. And I think this is just the tip or just the start of a very long, hopefully lasting relationship where we can build and expand on this. And, it's a great mission that Dave is a part of. I'd love to help to support. And now we got Nick in there. So it was really an awesome experience. Nick got a chance to play the game. You got a chance to meet all the vets. And we saw an awesome kick-ass show, gave us backstage passes and everything. Class act all the way through. So that was a really cool last Thursday. It was really awesome.
So we're going to have to, do, a Super Bowl event. Get somewhere and get down there. Nick Carter, I'm calling you out, man. I may be a big dude in 46. I got hands like glue. Right, Nick Carter? Nice. Calling you out.
Great guy.
And I hope Trey from the morning show is watching. I'm going to reach out to him. But as far as the military aspect, we can connect
absolutely
between all of us and just make this work in such a major way. So
for sure.
Yesterday was a lot of fun conversations, just meeting people for the first time. And
it's absolutely crazy the journey that this has taken me on. And I never say no to anybody. And I always say hi, very, very professional and cordial or whatever. And when you put out that positive energy, I think it comes back in, droves. And I just think, good people are, attracted to one another. And I think good things happen to good people. And this is an example of that.
So, and after we beat them at football, Robert, then we'll have a boy band off. So we're gonna have to work on our new kids, and I don't know which new kid I'm gonna be. But I see Joey McIntyre in your future.
That New Kids on the Block, that's up in your area, right? Aren't they all Massachusetts guys, right?
Yeah, they played in Boston this weekend.
Really?
Friday and Saturday.
See, I would love to get. All right, so here's my goal. I'm hoping to copy and paste what we did here with Nick and his band. Listen, I'm going to see Pearl Jam's same venue in September. I'm trying to find out their tour manager as well and just do the same thing. But
Stand by on that. My buddy Josh is like everything Pearl Jam. I will talk to him. All
right. Look, I've been in the fan club. I hate, since '94. Ever since I got shut out of tickets, I was like, I'm not letting this happen again. And I've seen them lots of times and love them. Great guys. And I would love to meet them and get them involved somehow if that's possible. So if you know somebody and have a connection, please.
Yeah, no, I will do that. He went across Canada on tour with them from
Montreal
really? All the way to Vancouver.
What was his role with the band?
Nothing. He's a fan, but he just knows everybody involved with it.
I got you. So tell me more about this tournament or league. Where is it happening? What's going on? How many?
We got to finalize where it's happening. I'm waiting for the guys to get back to me that they purchased it, and we're having a meeting Tuesday. But we should have everything up and ready to go Saturday, an event that's already scheduled.
Okay.
An 8-hour event, which will include a barbecue, DJ, band.
Awesome.
Fun day, very unique event and unique venue. So
well, listen, as soon as you get that information, let me know, and I'll promote it on all my social channels. And I know we have a ton of customers up in the New England area, and if it's open to the public or whatever, let me know. Shoot me a link, and I'll drive traffic to you and get more people there.
Well, you got an endorsement from somebody who I played in high school with. He played at the University of Tulsa. And him and his family tore it up in California with it last week. So
our game?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yep. They had to leave it behind. They bought it and left it behind in good hands, they said. So
oh wow.
They all traveled back to Massachusetts from a remote family reunion. So Ryan De Silva is his name. I don't know if he's watching right now, but
well, listen, if he took any footage or pictures or video, I would love to share it to the QB54 Nation. People love seeing that stuff, and so do I.
I will hit him up. But thanks for the great partnership, and we got big things coming. And
awesome.
I'm calling out the Backstreet Boys. There it is.
Say that logo looks nothing like anything you've seen before, correct?
That's right. Yeah, that's incredible.
It's on my phone too.
Very good.
We call it the game before the game. Anyway,
Michael, thank you so much,
guys. Thank you.
We'll be in touch, but E2G is calling out the Backstreet Boys. Whatever.
Let's go.
All right. Thank you very much.
Handoff.
Have a great day, Mike.
All right. You guys take care. Take care. Bye-bye.
So that's our new venture. This is cool, what I've been doing the last 2 days.
That's cool.
So we're going to play football with the Backstreet Boys. Location to be determined.
Yeah.
I'm really going to have to start running and stretching. I'm going to be good for one play from like the half-yard line. Quarterback sneak. That'll be about it.
Do you have the game, buddy?
I do not. I have one being sent.
Okay.
So
yeah, I just looked it up online. That's pretty cool.
It looks good in a parking lot. And
yeah.
Because when we went to Cleveland a few years ago, they had a tire set up by a parking lot, and everybody was just trying to throw it through the tire from 40 yards. I'm like,
oh, this is so they went up to Buffalo, but I'm sure they loved it down there.
Oh, they probably dove through it.
Yeah, up there, yeah.
But yeah, they probably dove through it for all we know. So, bunch of weirdos they are. So, Gavin Cross, outfield of Virginia Tech, just went 9th overall to the Royals, the Rockies, Mets, and the Tigers. I think it's Jen who's talking with us about the Tigers.
Mm-hmm.
Big Detroit fan.
Okay.
So when you look the Colorado Rockies, we did the preview on their radio station before the season. You seen anything out of any of their prospects or hear anybody coming up as they sit there at number 10?
I've been really impressed with their major league roster. They got a lot of guys. They got a lot of pride, and they've done a really good job. Chris Bryant going over there, I feel like was a really good move for them. At the time, I didn't think it was a very good move because, going from, division team to division team, I didn't think he was going to do as well. But Chris Bryant overall has done okay. I think the Rockies are in a good spot right now. But that trade for Arenado just blows my mind. I don't know how they can let him, walk like that.
And they're gonna be watching that for a long time. Kim, our own Kim.
That's Adam Kim that doesn't like the Blue Jays. I like the Blue Jays. That was Adam. Adam doesn't like the Blue Jays, but I don't mind them. Vlad Guerrero looks good. He lost a lot of weight this offseason.
Yeah, he is looking very good.
And he's improved a lot at first base. That's a lot asking for him to go over there, where he's made his career at the hot corner. That's tough to be able to to be able to translate like that. It's tough.
Yes, I'm waiting for more Toronto smack talk to come in for you.
They are above the Red Sox in the standings, so that's good smack talk for sure.
Kirk is on fire.
Yeah, Alejandro Kirk really surprised a lot of people this year. It's going to be interesting to see how he does after the All-Star break. A lot of what happens is these guys come up and then the pitchers get the scouting report and throw it to the spot where you can't hit it, and then you run through this stretch. We'll see if he stays consistent for the whole year. If he can be able to do that in the Jays, get good pitching. I thought after Charlie Montoya got fired, things were going downhill for them. It's gone the other way this week, which has been really impressive. I give a lot of credit to the Jays and that coaching staff that some of them are still there, even though the manager got fired.
Yeah, that was surprised last week, but
very surprising. Yeah, very
off of that.
Yeah.
Gabriel Hughes, right-hand pitcher out of Gonzaga. All I've heard about is he's a pretty big dude.
Yeah. So Gonzaga baseball is starting to step up a little bit. Not obviously, they're never going to be the level that their basketball program's at. But if they can compete and get into the NCAA tournament and maybe make some noise in a regional or something, there's nothing wrong with that. And the more guys they get, hopefully the more baseball prospects they get, and the guys get drafted.
So the Mets are on the clock, and they're here because of Kumar Rocker not signing last year, so they got the 11th pick overall.
Yeah.
One spot up. So they're on the clock. Detroit, the Angels, who last year 20 picks, 20 pitchers. It's called throwing money at a problem.
Yeah, it's still a problem. They're pitching. I think it might have been I think it was 2 years ago. I put out there that the Angels were going to trade Mike Trout, and I got ripped for it. There's a chance in the next 2 or 3 years we might just see him say, I've had enough. I want to leave. Trade me.
Do you think he wants to play in Philly?
I think he'd be good with the Yankees.
Wow. Yeah, that's close enough. He'll be able to go to his Eagle games.
Yeah. I think he'd like the Phillies too, but is he friends with Bryce Harper? Is Bryce Harper's going to be there?
It's a good question. Those two together. Production.
Yeah.
Bow ties. Never got into them.
I'm not much of a tie guy in general.
11 and 14 for the Mets on everything going on. Well, boy, could they really put it together, especially when you got those two guys at the top of the rotation.
Yeah.
If you can eventually, fill those roles with guys you draft tonight in a few years down the line.
It's going to be interesting, buddy, and I wanted to mention this tonight about the fact with Pete Alonso. He continues to be in the home run derby. Is it eventually going to ever mess with his swing, or has he been that militant to make sure it doesn't? Because we saw what happened with Aaron Judge a couple years ago where he did the home run derby, and then for a month, the guy couldn't even hit his own weight. I always found that interesting. Big power guys like that are just okay with screwing up their swing for a couple weeks. It doesn't really seem to phase for Pete Alonso.
Doesn't he train for it a certain way? Like he actually practices it?
I think so. He okays it with the Mets because I guess the Mets really watch what a lot of their top guys do. Are really hard on their top guys to make sure they're not going out and doing stupid stuff. I guess like the guy that's going to throw BP to him will travel with him on the road for a couple of weeks. And Alonso will, cover the fees and everything for that guy to come with the team and everything. But he'll practice, right on the field in batting practice. And, he'll be able to, have an allotted time to where he's able to do that during batting practice. And his teammates really like it, and they don't see it as a distraction.
That's good. I mean, if he can continue to be a good player and take his chances in the home run derby, that works out.
He has a difficult first-round matchup in the home run derby with Ronald.
Who does he have?
Ronald Acuna.
Ah, all right. No, the pick's in for the Mets. Let's see what direction they go.
Mhm.
What's the matter, bud? Kevin Parada, catcher, Georgia Tech. Oh, he was in the 2020 draft and went undrafted and got a good job. Did a good job at Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
Playing some SEC baseball, ACC baseball, and moved himself up to the 11th pick. So, what do you think of catchers this high? Do you think they have to be a sure thing, or do you think you can take a lot of shots further in the draft, maybe 3, shoot at 3, and maybe get 1 out of it?
I think anytime you draft a catcher in the top 15 pick, he better be a major leaguer. Because a lot of what people want to do is, the Jazz's positions, right? Shortstop, center field, pitcher, first base, third base, the flashy positions, right? When you go catcher, it doesn't always sit well with people, and he definitely has to be a slam dunk for sure.
Yeah, to make it happen. But how many of these guys are down the Cape League? Do we know overall?
So obviously, a lot of the guys and obviously if they're in high school, they're not. The year I was in the Cape, the year of the draft, there wasn't too many guys that left because they got drafted. But another reason why a lot of these kids are down in the Cape is because they're not draft eligible.
Okay.
That's one of the reason why a lot of the guys are down there is so the following year they get drafted. Or 2 years from now. Because you can't get drafted every single year you're in college. You can get drafted after your freshman year and then after your junior year and beyond.
So, this is the guy they chose to interview. The Mets and the Tigers pick is in. I know we got a very happy follower. Maybe we'll call it until the Red Sox come back if you want to come back later and talk Red Sox pick, or we can be done for the night, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, no, I think the Red Sox, I know that we were going to talk a little bit about the deadline. I don't know if you want to get into that.
Yeah. No, we'll get into the deadline. Let's keep talking. For the hometown team.
Yeah.
Buyers or sellers, or are we waiting until maybe after this 10-game homestand?
The problem with waiting, and I somewhat want them to wait. The problem with waiting is if you wait, a lot of the guys are going to be gone by the time you want, whoever you want. The Red Sox, if they want to trade, are going to have to give up a lot for a reliever. They need a closer. The Red Sox haven't had a closer a lockdown closer since Craig Kimbrell was here. Matt Barnes tried last year. He was an all-star, and then something went haywire. I don't even know how many games he's pitched for the Red Sox this year. He hasn't done very well. I know he's had some injury stuff going on, so I don't know what the process is on that. But the Red Sox are dealing with a lot of injuries right now. And until all those guys come back, I don't think Alex Cora and Chaim Bloom can officially assess the team the way that they want to. So if I was Chaim Bloom, I may make a move next week just to, get somebody new in here. But the Red Sox can't sit around and wait while the Jays, the Rays, and the Yankees make all these moves and they have nothing to show for it like last year.
I'm going to give you 2 relievers you'd like to see brought in here. Could come at decent prices. Who are those 2 relievers?
But I'll be honest with you, it's the list would probably be like 20. I can't narrow it down to just 2. A guy that's been talked a lot about is Josh Bell, the first baseman for the Nationals. He's got a lot of the same problems the Red Sox guys do. It's hit or miss. You hit a home run or you strike out. Problem is a lot of the outfielders that the Red Sox have are all contact guys. So you can't have all contact guys in your lineup, but you have some power guys in the lineup just aren't producing. JD Martinez is having a good year. He's batting over 300. but he only has 8 or 9 home runs. If he had like 6 or 7 more home runs, we're talking about him, being an all-star without, somebody going out and getting hurt. So to answer your question, I think it'd be hard to just nail it down to just two relievers. They need a closer. They need a closer badly. So whoever that is, they need it, and they need it quickly, or this thing's going to get away from them.
Is Robertson somebody you'd be interested in?
I would be. He's been pitching for a long time, and he knows a lot of the guys, and he wouldn't be someone bad to have closing games against the New York Yankees, possibly late in the year when you're vying for a playoff spot. He knows a lot of those guys.
Yeah, very familiarity with the division.
Yep.
Altogether.
Absolutely.
He pitched well against the Red Sox and in Wrigley too this year.
Yes. Yeah, he's good. I think that the Cubs would be willing to part ways with him for the right price.
Yeah, no reason to hold on to. Who are just some of the other arms you've heard of who are available who just may be interesting?
I know there's a good amount of guys in the National League that I know that are out there.
And these are teams that are out of it pretty much.
These are just teams that are completely out of it. The problem is, and I see this a lot in baseball, is that the relievers are all on the best teams. Daniel Bard might be someone that I'd be interested in. Bard has been, really, really good. I know there's a lot of guys that are out there right now that are, on top teams that teams just aren't going to. It's hard to trade with another contending team when you're a contender. And I mean, we've seen it, a couple of times over the years happen, but you don't see it very often. So I'd say that Robinson and Daniel Bard would my 2 guys that I'd want. I don't know if Bard would be willing to, come back to the Red Sox after how that kind of tenure ended. A little bit salty for him.
So if you're the Yankees, what's something to close this out? Like, we grabbed this player. We are.
I'll be honest with you. I don't think the Yankees have to do anything. I really don't. I think you get somebody. The guy that just pitched last night, the pitcher from Cincinnati, Castillo. I think it's Castillo. Luis. Yeah. He would be good for them. He's another starter. They're for some reason not confident in Jameson Taillon, and I don't know why. He has really good stuff, and he's consistent. I can understand why Jordan Montgomery kind of gives them a little bit of worries. He's a little bit shaky at times. Garrett Cole's going to have to be lights out in the postseason. He's an all-star this year, but he hasn't had the year that the Yankees wanted him to. See, if the Yankees pitched the way they pitched last year and Garrett Cole has had the year that he had this year, a lot more people would care. Mm. But because they've won 60-something games already this year, no one really says anything. Garrett Cole in the postseason is going to have to be lights out Garrett Cole if they want to win a championship. Has to be.
And Nestor Cortez and what's up with Severino?
So Severino has a bit of a setback, as we saw earlier in the week. If I'm the Yankees, if he's there, he's there. He's not, he's not. Severino has not been dependable the past couple of years. When Severino's on, he's one of the best pitchers in the game. But when he's not on, it looks really, really bad. It's a lot like Chris Sale. When he pitches really, really well, he's unhittable. But when he's injured and not pitching well, he's not very effective. So the Yankees overall are in a really good spot. The only thing maybe they need is another corner outfielder, somebody, defensively that can take care of things. And I just think another guy that's going to be in there to take the pressure off of Judge and Stanton when they want to have their days off. The Yankees have to be very careful with Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton and the way they manage them because they have such this big lead.
Toronto.
So Toronto, just more starting pitching. if you want to beat the Yankees this year to make sure they don't get to the World Series, you're going to have to pitch your way through it. Toronto, offensively, similar to the Red Sox, top to bottom, if they can get everything going, they're another AL team if they have all the trips right and they pitch Jose Barrios out there in Game 1 at Yankee Stadium and he pitches really well. Maybe they steal a game in New York and bring it back north of the border and they're able to find a way to win it all. Toronto's a scary team if they can get going. Similar to the way Seattle is. And I think out of everybody in the American League, Houston is probably the team that could beat the Yankees the most out of everybody. I'm not sold on Chicago. Chicago, I believe, needs to win their division and be able to have home games, home field advantage if they don't have any chance to win a championship.
Looking at the National League, we'll give the Detroit pick here for our Detroit fans. And Jace Young, second baseman, Texas Tech. Wow, his brother plays for the Rangers, Josh.
Okay.
So Texas Tech. Yeah, good offensive player at second base. So there's your pick, Detroit. So I'm looking at the National League. What's going to separate Milwaukee and the Cardinals? Maybe a move that can be made.
It's the battle between Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt. Whoever can get really hot. I know Christian Yelich has somewhat struggled this year. He's going to have to be able to find his way in the plate. Milwaukee, pitching-wise, is a problem for a lot of teams in that division. St. Louis is going to have to – I think any contending team could always use extra pitching.
Yes.
I think that's a universal agreed-upon rule with every contending team. St. Louis is in pretty good spot. I think either of those teams win their division, they're able to get home games, they have a chance. That being said, the Dodgers aren't this big juggernaut they've been the past couple of years. They remind me a lot of the team of last year, where they had a lot of expectation. They've fallen on hard times. But the Dodgers overall have been pretty steady this year. Last year, they went through that really bad spell. And that really kind of messed them up. That whole situation with Trevor Bauer is probably the reason why they didn't get to the World Series. Because they had to mess around with their pitching and everything else. The fact that David Price is in their bullpen just shows how much depth they have in their starting.
Yes. Very
The
expensive.
Dodgers are going to be a very difficult team to beat. I truly do expect the Dodgers to be back in the World Series this year after the year off.
So you would take the fully healthy Dodgers over the Mets?
I would. I think the Braves are going to end up the team that's going to be there late in the year. I think the Mets squandered a really good opportunity to win their division this year. That's not to say the Mets can't go off and win a World Series because now you have all the wild card teams. The Mets are very capable of winning a World Series this year. There is a possibility we might see a Subway Series in the World Series. Very much a possibility if things go right. But I think the Yankees are more likely to go to the World Series than the Mets are.
All right. Any final thoughts we have?
I thought this was really fun. I'm looking forward to that QB 54 game.
Yeah, we're taking out the Backstreet Boys. Like,
yeah. I hope we can meet up and play. That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll send you the info as soon as we secure everything and go out and enjoy this. But yeah,
I'm looking forward to David Ortiz's Hall of Fame induction.
Yeah, that
should be a lot of fun. Obviously, my childhood was watching David Ortiz. So that'll be cool. There's just a lot of exciting things going on in baseball. I'm looking forward to, even though the Red Sox aren't playing, the Field of Dreams game again between the Reds and the Cubs. That should be a lot of fun. I've always enjoyed that. Field of Dreams, my favorite baseball movie. That was really fun last year, and it was even better seeing Tim Anderson walk off the Yankees. That was really cool to see. A lot of baseball, the game of baseball, the past couple of years, everyone's saying it's a dying sport. Baseball is not a dying sport.
Nope.
The younger viewers now are liking the bat flips, the talking with the umpires, the opposing teammates, teams, talking, being friendly with each other. I remember 20 years ago, the Red Sox and Yankees would be playing each other. They're not saying a word to each other at all the whole entire game.
No.
Everyone's quiet. Everyone's friends now, talking, mingling, having a good time. And I think for younger viewers, that's why everyone loves baseball again.
Find it disgusting.
Yeah, I'm not too much of a fan of it. But, hey, if that attracts more fans to the game and it gets other people to be quiet, that's fine with me.
All right. Anything more you want to share with us, Robert, before we wrap up? Got any recipes? Anything like that?
No recipes, no. I will say one thing about the Red Sox before we end today. If the Red Sox are able to win the series against the Blue Jays next weekend, which is hard to ask because they haven't won a series yet against an AL East team yet this year.
Mm-hmm.
They've split two series last weekend against the Yankees and then a series against the Orioles. If they're able to win that series against Toronto and be able to get themselves back into playoff position in that third or second wild card spot, the Red Sox should pull the trigger and make a big trade. Because I think the window for the Red Sox is pretty large, but I think it's going to converge on there really quick if they start losing their big guys.
All right. He's Robert Masello. I can be found at E2G Founder. With you for a little bit for the draft and the midway point of the season, and Stark needs to go out. Thank you very much for joining us on E2G Sports. Thanks to Michael Silva from QB54 joining us and our new partnership with them. And we're taking down the Backstreet Boys. We are the boy band. Have a good night, everybody.